Happy Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving. Love everybody to jump on here. Really cool conversation today for those of you interested in learning a little bit more about the mask. Okay, let's see. We are going to have Miriam Elyse. She's a Tantra coach. I worked with her. She's fabulous. She's gonna be jumping on and we're gonna talk all things Tantra. Connection to self. Fun things, especially before the holidays. Kind of good to tap into that. So hopefully we can get her on. How are you guys doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you, Sniper. Oh, you like my plants? Thank you. My little jungle. Thank you guys. Hi. What am I thankful for? All the lessons I learned this year. Some hard ones, but I'm grateful for that. What about you guys? What are you grateful for? Okay, I think Miriam is in and have an interesting conversation. Hi guys.
Hello,
Hi.
hello.
Miriam, Elyse, how are you? Uh-oh, I don't know, is that my internet? Am I frozen, guys? Uh-oh. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Sometimes my internet loves to throw us a wrench. But hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I've just been doing a lot of traveling. I was in Peru for a month and a half, got COVID for the first time, and all full circle. I feel healthy. I feel good. Peru was incredible. I'm really happy to be on this call with you. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
I know. A lot for us to talk about because obviously you and I work together. Uh-oh, internet is freezing. But I don't know if that's my internet or your internet. Okay, can you hear me better?
Yeah, just
Okay.
fixed it.
Yeah, we worked together for 5 weeks, 6 weeks,
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was really transformational. And I'm really proud of myself that I found you. And I invested in myself through you as a Tantra coach. Shout out to Julie who connected us.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to start off really simply and kind of give the audience an understanding of what is Tantra, because I think a lot of people, there may be a misconception about it.
Okay, well, Tantra is a lot of different things. Depending on who you ask, you'll probably get a different answer. To go way back in time, it started in India as a pathway of liberation, a pathway of worship, a pathway of connection to the divine. Yoga, what we know as yoga, and also the yoga of meditation, the yoga of breath, the yoga of mindfulness, all comes from something like Tantra being this kind of umbrella Eastern spirituality system, a system of healing, a system of enlightenment, so to speak. So one thing that's beautiful about Tantra that's very different about other religions or spiritual practices is that it actually includes the body, it includes sexuality, sensuality, it includes what we have right here in front of us as a pathway to the divine, instead of saying, if you're a good girl, once you die, then you'll be able to go to heaven. So no shade on those religions. Every connection to something greater than yourself is potentially beautiful, and being able to say what I have right here in this moment is also good, is also divine, including my body, including my sexuality. All parts of me are a pathway to the divine, is really the reason why I got into studying Tantra. And Western, our relationship to Tantra has been more about sexuality, having more connection, more intimacy, better ways to kind of physically come together sexually and sensually. And that's kind of the part of Tantra that we in the West have highlighted and focused on. And I think it's good because we need it. You know, there's so much shame, abuse, misconceptions, repression, programming, patriarchal, conditioning that we need to overcome, really everywhere in the world. But let's start here in the West, where I think most of us listening are probably from. Having a spiritual practice to focus on sexuality, I think is a really healing thing, ultimately.
Yeah, and that was, I think uh, much respect for people and traditional religions, but I was trying to, I think, when I found you, was to break free of some of like the shame, the guilt, those things that somewhat become programmings that you absorb just in whatever experience you've had throughout your life. And since doing work with you, I've had a deeper connection to self. I've been so much more curious about experiences and ultimately compassion for me and therefore other people. And I loved our work together. Can you describe like what it is exactly that you do?
What it is exactly that I do? Sure. Let me encapsulate that. Well, okay, so a little kind of broad zoom out a little bit. So I'm a licensed acupuncturist, and I actually came to Tantra Yoga through acupuncture. So my business is called Pleasure as Medicine, and to me that's the merging of the medicine, the healing of acupuncture, with learning more about pleasure as a healing path through Tantra Yoga and connecting to your sexual energy as a form of your life force vitality instead of something that can be commodified or objectified or used against you. So what I do is I work mostly with women, sometimes with couples, but mostly with women, on reclaiming the innate goodness of their bodies and helping women tap into feminine power through the lens of pleasure, sensuality, and activating the vitality, which is actually a part of your sexual energy. So a lot of the work is body, mind, psychology, focusing on clearing programming and clearing beliefs, negative beliefs around sexuality. And then a lot of it is actually about practices, tantric practices, where you can work with yourself to cultivate and activate more of this energy so you even like have access to it. And really from there, a whole different world opens up once you kind of have access to more of this arousal energy. And it's not even about sex, it can be, but oftentimes it's about people's confidence, people feeling more free to speak up to somebody, to their boss, to their relationship with a parent or something, their partner. And from there, it's like it really kind of can set you on this path of liberation.
Oof, and you just said it right there. You said liberation, because
Yeah.
I'm now on this path of understanding how actually I was so masculine in a lot of my life, in my
Mm,
in my in my job for sure. I feel like I've just presented this hyper independence, fear of surrender, and we'll talk about all that too, because I really want to give people tools and tips for how to surrender, how to let go. But how how do you recommend? I mean, because I'm sure you're seeing more and more women show up more masculine. And it wasn't until I learned this with you that I was like, oh, puzzle piece sort of started to make sense. That I'm like, I'm in protection mode. That's super masculine. I don't have to be so protective. Like I can let love in and let things flow. And I think understanding that we don't get a crash course in that. We show up and we expect to be successful, whatever success is, and we're either depressed or anxious because we don't know what we're doing.
hmm Well, unfortunately, we do get a crash course oftentimes in learning the hard way, through bad breakups, through negative, especially women, having negative sexual experiences. The crash course is comes oftentimes in the form of this kind of fantasy of what I thought it was going to be to fall in love and to have sex, maybe for the first time, or to have a partner and to be in a relationship is not, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm not as confident as I want to be. Oftentimes men are trained socially to be a lot more proud of their bodies, proud of their sexuality, and women are trained to be ashamed of desire, ashamed of pleasure, not know how to express it, and kind of giving to the men in oftentimes in spite of our connection to ourself and our authentic expression. So I see a lot of women actually come to me wanting to be more feminine and less masculine. And I understand it, but I have to say, I think the premise is flawed. I think the premise that we are too masculine and we should be more feminine, listen, so many people are coming at it from a patriarchal lens because all of us were raised in this culture and we see ourselves as women and like, what am I too much of and what do I need to be more of? Right? I'm too much this, I'm not enough of this. Um, and to say to a woman who most women are more empathic, more intuitive, more sensitive to the judgments of others, to say you need to be more this way, even if she presents as confident and strong and masculine, what that will oftentimes do is say, okay, I need to not speak up. I need to not know what I want. I need to not be assertive. I need to not claim my power in bed. I need to just let it happen and just be okay with whatever's happening, going for the ride, go along for the ride. I don't think that's right either. Um, I think really what femininity, true femininity is about, and it's feminine power. And feminine power is chaos, it's emotionality, it's desire, it's creativity, it's moving freely, it's being in touch with the earth, being in touch with your cycles as a woman, your menstrual cycles, it's being in touch with your intuition, feeling each other, knowing what your friend needs when she's suffering. That is feminine power. And so many of us are taught and we believe that feminine energy is softness and surrender and being quiet and allowing. And while allowing can be an important part of feminine energy, I think what's even more important is knowing how to activate your feminine power. And when that starts happening more in the bedroom, when women start feeling more confident to ask for what they want, to, you know, take power at times, to be more assertive with what feels right for them in bed, I think feminine desire is also going to increase, and men are going to learn how to relate to women better from a powerful, equally sharing power perspective, both in the bedroom and in the household or whatever.
Do you feel like we're at a place where more men are becoming emasculated?
Yeah, I do, and I think I truly believe that anything that's out of balance will swing to its opposite imbalance before it finds its middle ground. So I think women becoming more masculine to the point where they're disconnected from their feminine and vice versa, men becoming more feminine to the point where they're um, almost like, you know, wanting to throw out their masculinity. I think those are other extremes, and what happens is eventually, I believe, I have faith that eventually we'll find balance. But I think it's healthy to swing from extreme to extreme on the path to finding balance. It's when we shame ourselves for being too much this or too much that and say, I should be there. Why did I do that? That's when we develop these kind of neuroses that actually, it's like we're against ourselves. If we say, oh, this is a natural part of me finding my balance, let me be patient and compassionate with myself and know that ultimately I'm leading towards this balance, that's ultimately how we want to treat ourselves, right?
I love that. I love that there's this permission to be, to just exist because of past generations. Here we are today. There's no fault, but there is finding a balance and finding, I think the thing for me with working with you was realizing I didn't trust a lot of my own decisions. I was defaulting to everybody else to decide like what was right for me.
Yeah.
Just because of, you know, I think I was a child that wanted to always make her parents proud. And so achieving became my love language. Achieving became like the thing for people to see me and then accept me with. And then doing this work with you just kind of allowed me to like just relax. Like you're working so hard here. You know, you don't have to do all of this. And it is such an interesting time to witness the feminine, you know, and her struggles in today's day, and also have empathy for what men are going through.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I mean, I love this conversation. And for you, why did you feel this was something you wanted to continue to help people with and facilitate? Like, what were you seeing that you thought, I need to get into this and help something better?
Yeah. So yeah, I've always been, just by my nature, very oriented towards personal freedom. I've always been, I don't know if you want to call it rebellious or different or just like wild and free by my nature. And I felt, you know, as a young woman, I felt the way that the kids in school, family, society was trying to put me into this, be more like this is too much. And even peer approval or lack of approval based on my sexuality, my curiosity around sex at a younger age than a lot of my friends. It was like there's something wrong with me, it felt like.
Mm.
And so that the way that I respond, everybody's going to respond to that differently. I'd say a good portion of the people will conform and a good portion of the people will rebel. And I just happened to be a person that I was kind of stuck between conforming and rebelling for a while because I didn't feel like I had enough people who had my back who were like me to feel like I had a group to rebel with. So I was like, I'm rebelling, but I'm pretending to be normal, but I'm really different, but I don't really know. So for me, I think I grew up with a certain amount of confusion around the safety of my body and the safety of my natural sexual energy and how to hold that, right? So I've always been somebody, even at a young age, where my friends would come to me for sex advice even before I was having sex. A lot of my friends were having it before me, but for some reason, I just got it. I just understood. I was like so intrigued by the erotic. And when I was, you know, studying acupuncture, I would have people come into the clinic to see me as a student, and people would always say, "I don't know why I'm asking you this, but can you help my sexual issues, my lubrication, my libido?" And so it was kind of this natural thing where people would feel really comfortable talking with me about that. So I found when I found Tantra yoga, it was yoga, like, you know, the regular yoga poses with an emphasis on basically Kegels in different poses, holding Mula Bandha, which is like the pelvic floor, and squeezing and pulsating the pelvic floor while you're in these different poses as a way to kind of wake up that energy. And that was just one thing that we did in the whole yoga class, but that thing stuck with me. And I remember leaving those classes feeling like a light bulb turned on and I was like bubbling over and giddy and like excited and had so much energy. And it was the first time that I felt like my sexual energy wasn't in the dark or like I wasn't ashamed of it.
Taboo. Yeah.
It wasn't taboo. It wasn't something that like I enjoyed yet felt a little bit guilty about. It was like it was filling all of me and exuding out of all of me, and it was totally safe
Mm.
for me, for men, for women, for, you know, everybody around me. It was like, this is just, I'm breathing with this energy now. And that I started studying, I dove into the study of Tantra yoga really from a yoga perspective, energy cultivation, wanting people to feel this liberation and this safety in pleasure that I was feeling.
And it's funny too, because even for people that are going to watch or are currently watching, it, these practices actually you've shared with me make you look younger.
Hmm.
You're like, you look younger, you look more you know, more vitality. And
I'm
it,
64. Would you believe that?
what?
I'm 64 years old.
No.
Just kidding.
I was
Sorry.
like, that's hilarious. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. I would go, I'll sign me up. Where are you? Take me in as your student. But it's true, and that's really powerful. Is realizing shame, guilt. Those are such low vibrating apathy. places to live in. And when you can truly tap into this thing that people don't want to talk about, and it's so shameful, and oh my God, desire,
Yeah.
all of those things, it is fucking liberating to be able to have that. And then you just sort of tap into a superpower, which was what you gave me. Like before every session, I loved that you knew how frenetic I was coming into you. Like how you knew I was willing, but you could probably sense this anxiety, freneticness, distraction. And so you would have me meditate, and you would like, let's get centered, and then boom, you're just gifted in that you can really heal by sort of knowing intuitively what that person needs. So
Thank
I know
you.
we've already gone over time. What would be some magical tips for people that are trying to discover a brighter relationship with themselves that you would recommend tapping into? Like, and maybe you could go feminine and then masculine, because I do have a lot of male viewers that may be
Mhm.
interested in watching this.
Yeah, definitely. I could talk about this all day, so I'm like just just gonna keep going. But yeah, in the nature of time sensitivity. So magical tips. First of all, I want to just respond to what you shared, and that's that oftentimes we are our own worst enemy. I'm sure you recognize that, but the way that you do one thing is the way you do everything. The way that we are thinking when we're like, oh, I'm struggling with this issue, I wish I could get over that issue. We don't see how much we're in our own ways with the way that we're choosing to think, with the way that we're choosing to relate to ourselves. Um, I always work with people's relationship with their like mind, with your awareness of, let's first start with, do I believe that I deserve pleasure? Am I safe with a bigger sexual energy? What would that look like? Do I feel safe with that?
Mhm.
So it's really important to feel safe
do,
before you just, yeah.
do you feel like a lot of your clients don't initially, like that's a block that you have to work through?
I feel like a lot of people don't know how scary the idea of being more turned on all the time is. Like some people are like, what would happen? Men won't like me, or women will think I'm this or that. Because it's the fear of being overly masculine. It's the fear of being too much again. So if I turn my sexual energy up, then I'm going to become somebody who isn't pleasing everybody all the time. Who will I be? How will people see me? Right? So that's a big part. The people pleasing is a big part. Learning to speak up is a big part of sexual confidence. And that again reflects in or out of the bedroom. So for women and men really, but I think this one's more geared towards women because women are so disconnected below the waist, but really women are disconnected below the neck. We as a culture are in our heads, and what this means, disconnected below the neck, is it's hard for us to even be aware of what is my body feeling at this moment. And a lot of what we did in the beginning of our sessions was we meditated on a really slow, sometimes painfully slow body scan of, let's start with the tip of our toes and take 5 minutes sometimes to move all the way up. And this actually builds, your brain gets used to tuning into your body and saying, oh, I'm not feeling anything there. Let me tune in deeper. Oh, wow, I am feeling something there over time. So for women especially, doing a body scan, if you have a meditation practice, I recommend everybody has at least 5 minutes a day. They just sit with themselves and not skipping over the genitals. Almost all of these body scans will skip over, they'll say hips, they might say glutes, they will skip over the genitals. Like, and what I'm recommending doing is really getting detailed about your anatomy in your imagination as you're feeling into different parts of your body. So that's starting to make this connection between awareness and physical body. And that is like a great place to start. Of course, breathing deeply while you're doing this is going to really help. Most of us don't realize that we're holding our breath all the time, and that stops you from feeling your body. So the breath is like a gateway or like a communication between the mind and the body. When we start being more aware of our breath, we start being aware that we have lungs, that our belly is rising and falling, and then that can start to tune us into our physical experience more. Um, so that's like a basic kind of for everybody, but I'll gear that more towards women because men are more aware of their genitals. I mean, it's more obvious when a man is aroused than a woman, right? So it's like more of a thing that they're just aware of. They're carrying this around outside of their body their whole life. So for men, specifically around cultivating sexual energy, so sexual power, vigor, libido, stamina, all that. Lots of tantric practices which involve breathing while squeezing the perineum. And you can do this with sex, you can do this with masturbation. Breathing while squeezing and releasing the perineum. So you breathe and squeeze on the inhale, lifting the energy up, and release your breath and release the squeeze on the exhale. And just starting to do this is going to start to get you feeling your whole body, and really a huge thing for men, especially men who haven't, men have sexual trauma too. Men were raised with, a lot of men's sexual ed was pornography, which again, no shade, no shame on anybody, but this really disconnects you from your heart in the act of sex. So it makes sex a more objectified thing where you're seeing visual turn on. You need the woman to look a certain way to get aroused. And then you have to have this kind of, it's usually a quicker cycle of release because you're like, oh, I'm aroused. Now I have to let it go, so to speak. So breathing slowly, breathing deeply, breathing into your lower abdomen and connecting your sexual sensation to your heart, to your heart. When you can start, it takes time, but when you can start breathing and almost imagining sensation in your genitals connected to sensation or love in your heart, you start to kind of bring this balance upwards and bring this power and intensity upwards into your heart. And guess what? Women can connect so much better with a man who is rooted in his heart. Women feel safer intuitively. It's just like women will have better sexual experiences, even if they don't know what's going on. We can feel our partner's presence in their heart. And so it's going to make a woman have a better sexual experience with you. It's not about performance, it's about connection and presence.
Girl, and that's
Yeah.
and that's the key, right? Is being able to connect deeper to self and deeper to each other, really, at the end of the day. So I love your teachings. You're like, we could do this all day, and I love this type of conversation, because it becomes empowering when you have the knowledge to know and the permission to accept yourself on another level. And I just appreciate your help in me having a higher awareness in all of this. And just at the end of the day, it's just self-care, it's self-love, it's self-discovery. And you were such a great teacher, and it was really enjoyable getting to have 7 weeks with you. And I still will see you. You have a program, and we'll repost it all here in case people are interested. But
Awesome.
I think it's a great practice if people can have the time to invest in it. I think it's worthwhile to learn something like this that I feel we don't discuss or talk about nearly enough. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and for having the courage to open up this conversation. I know it's not always easy to talk about sexuality. It's vulnerable. It's a vulnerable thing to talk about, and I'm just so grateful for you. You've been so much fun to talk to here and in our work together. And yeah, I'm grateful for you also.
Miriam, happy Thanksgiving, and
Thank you.
I'll be seeing you soon.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Well,
Mwah.